Good morning, students. In our previous class, we have understood the first two stanzas of the poem In the Bazaars of Hyderabad. Today, we will begin from the third stanza. So, in the third stanza, we find the poet again directs her question, and this time the question is being asked to the goldsmiths. So, she asks, "What do you make, O ye goldsmiths? Wristlet and anklet and ring, bells for the feet of blue pigeons, frail as a dragonfly's wing, girdles of gold for the dancers, scabbards of gold for the king." Now, what do you make, O ye goldsmiths? So now she asks the goldsmiths who are at work. They are working on, why are they called goldsmith? Because they are working with gold, right? They're making or they're manufacturing various articles which are being made of the metal gold, which is quite a precious metal and which is quite an expensive one. Now the goldsmith's answer is wristlets and anklets and ring. So he tells that he makes various articles, wristlets. Where are wristlets being worn? Around the wrists. Where are anklets being worn? Right around our ankles. And where do we wear rings? Rings could mean your earrings or probably finger rings. So these are the articles that he says he makes. These are all meant especially for the women. These are all ornaments being made for the women. Next he says bells for the feet of blue pigeons. Okay, bells. So he makes bells, and these bells are meant to be worn, or to be worn around the feet of blue pigeons. Okay, so the blue pigeons are, these bells dangle around the feet of the blue pigeons. And can you say why, children? Or again, where do you find these blue pigeons with the gold bells around their feet? Do you find them in usual households, in the households of the common people? No, we find this again to be a mark of supremacy being found mostly in the homes of the elite classes, the richer people. And the blue pigeons, the pigeons, the feet of the pigeons are decorated by means of hanging these bells. Why? So that when the pigeons move from one place to another, or maybe within the cage itself, they make this beautiful tinkling sound. And that is why these are being meant to be worn around the feet of the blue pigeons. Then he says, frail as a dragonfly's wing. Now, what is frail as a dragonfly's wing? The bells. The bells are frail as a dragonfly's wing because you'll find there is a simile being used here. A simile is what? A simile is a figure of speech in which two dissimilar things are compared with a common point of comparison. So what is being compared here? The bells are compared to be as frail as a dragonfly's wing. That's very obvious, isn't it? A bell which is worn around the feet of a pigeon cannot be a heavy one. It has to be a very light one so that the pigeon can easily hold it and can move around. So it is as frail, okay, thin and very light as a dragonfly's wing. A dragonfly's wing, which is very, very delicate, isn't it? So this is what the goldsmith says. He's making bells for the feet of blue pigeons, which are very thin and very light and frail, just as a dragonfly's wing. Then he tells girdles of gold for dancers. Okay, what else does he make? He makes girdles. Now, what are girdles? Girdles are, bells or thick strings which are usually worn around the waist to keep clothes in position. So these are usually decorative pieces, decorative items of ornament which are being worn by or preferred by the dancers. So these are meant for the dancers. And then the goldsmiths say scabbards of gold for the king. Okay, what else does he make? He also makes scabbards. What are scabbards? Scabbards are sheaths or covers for swords which are made usually of leather or metal. So the sheath inside which the these kind of knives or these kind of or different kind of various kind of swords are being kept. So this is the scabbard. These are called scabbards, the covers. Okay, see, this is a scabbard for this particular dagger. Okay, this is a scabbard for this particular dagger. Okay, so these are the various scabbards that he makes for the king. So again we come to the same question. In the first stanza we saw that the merchants display items which are being used by a certain class of people, not by the the poorer class or the downtrodden class. In the second stanza we have found a lot of items which are being found almost in every household: saffron, lentil, rice, sandalwood, henna, spice. More or less these are found in most household, very common. And in the third stanza again we find description of things. These are made of gold, and hence they're expensive, quite valuable, and again not for all classes of people, but for a certain higher class, for the superior class. Like here the scabbards are meant for whom? For the kings. Okay, the girdles of gold are meant for the dancers. So these are a few things that we get a glimpse of in this stanza. In the next stanza, the poet again begins by asking, "What do you cry, O ye fruitmen?" Now she turns to the fruitmen and she asks them, "What are you crying out?" Okay, the fruitmen cry out loud about the fruits, the names of fruits that they sell in order to attract buyers to them. So now she asks, "What do you cry, O ye fruitmen?" And the fruitmen's answer is citron, pomegranate and plum. So they sell a different types of varieties of fruits. Among these are citron, pomegranate, plum, rich juicy fruits. Okay, mellifluous fruits. Then she again asks, "What do you play, O musician?" See, we find that the bazaar of Hyderabad that she describes has got almost everything to be found. Okay, there is nothing that you don't find in this bazaar. We even find musicians here, the musicians who display their various instruments by the streets, and then they play these items, entertaining people, and in order to again attract buyers who can buy the various instruments that they sell. And the musician's answer is sitar, sarungi and drum. So there are sitars, there are sarangis, and there are drums which are being displayed again in order to sell to the customers. The next she asks, "What do you chant, O magicians?" Okay, magicians, this was a common view during those times. This poem is written, towards the beginning of the 20th century. So these are a few, very common scenarios one could see in a typical Indian bazaar. Although we don't find musicians now in the bazaars, now you won't get to see markets moving around in the bazaars. So she asks the magicians, "What do you chant?" Okay, so you must have seen magicians, chanting spells, right? The spells could be like abracadabra, hocus pocus, isn't it? This just to name a few. So Indian magicians definitely have their own, chants, probably in their own language. So she asks them, "What do you chant? Magicians, what are you chanting, And she asks, "Spells for the ains to come." So she asks, "Are you, chanting spells?" Spells again means various mantras almost, isn't it? Spells for whom? Spells which can, influence people, which can intoxicate people, which can hypnotize people. So she asks, "Spells for the ains to come, are you chanting spells for the long times to come? Have you got spells for the beautiful times which are to come in the future?" So these are a few questions she asks to these various people she finds in the bazaar. This shows how colorful the bazaar is. The description given by the poet is beautiful. How vividly she describes each and every, she holds out almost each and every material being sent, each and every article, each and every point of attraction in the bazaar. And this is the best part of a poem. Children, why Sarojini Naidu was called the Nightingale of India? It was because of the lyrical quality of her poems. Her poems had this beautiful lyrical quality which were as if meant to be sung. That's the reason why she was called the Nightingale of India. Okay, I stop my audio explanation here today. We shall continue. We are left out with only the last stanza. So we will discuss the last stanza in the next audio, and I'll give you some more descriptions and some more important discussions on the poem in my next audio. Thank you so much, children. Have a nice day.